everyone, welcome you all to Believers IAS Academy, and in this today's topic of discussion we will be trying to understand one of the most important topics, not just from the UPSC's exam point of view, but as a normal citizen or a responsible citizen of this democratic nation. We will be trying to understand the situation of manual scavenging in India. So we will be discussing about the challenges as to what is curbing India's legal frameworks in order to ensure or not ensure safety, for those people who are following manual scavenging, and also probably we will in this video discuss the necessary frameworks or the social net safety net that is required or provided from the government in order to ensure that manual scavenging is not regulated but completely prohibited, right? So even before we dwell into the topic, it is important to know as to why we are studying this, because recently the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has released its studies, and it highlighted 54 deaths linked to hazardous cleaning practices during the period of 2022-2023 nationwide, and this highlights the data from 8 states across the country and including the union territories. Now, what are the key findings? It states 90% of cases is due to the lack of safety gear or protective equipment, with the sanitation workers. And one of the most important thing, or the reason why deaths occurred, is because of the lack of or the absence of mechanized cleaning tools like suction pumps or robotic cleaners. So now the point is, just because the resources are not sufficient, does it mean you let's say you employ a person to do this manual scavenging? Does India as a country do not have, or let's say do not have any rules or regulations that stops people from being forced to employ or to become a manual scavenger, to work as a manual scavenger? We will discuss everything in this particular video, and the whole point of this particular video is to understand the present status of manual scavenging in India, despite the rules, the restrictions from the government and even from the Supreme Court. So what is manual scavenging in the first place? It refers to the manual handling or cleaning of human excreta in various forms, maybe from drains, sewers, septic tanks, railway tracks. In fact, only these areas are mentioned doesn't mean the definition is only restricted there. It is pretty much open-ended, and it is important to know that one human handling the human excreta of another human, right, in any form, is part of manual scavenging. Now, let's understand the present situation or the current status of manual scavenging in India. So, what is the present legal stance of it? Has India banned manual scavenging? Yes, it has. The very first instance is in the year 1993 under Narasimha Rao government, that we first brought a legal ban to manual scavenging, and later in the year 2014 the Supreme Court also reinstated that it is violative of Article 21 and 17 of the Indian Constitution, especially the fundamental rights, under the Karamchari Andolan versus the Union of India case 2014. But still, what are the present findings? Under the Namaste scheme, where they do the screening as to how many workers are presently employed, a shocking, alarming data of more than 80,000 workers who were still employed as septic tank workers. And this is not just in one or two states, but across 36 states and union territories. And it is also identified that there has been more than 100 to 200 deaths every year amongst these workers as well. So now this becomes absolutely important to understand why there is let's say delay in the implementation of those regulations, or even for that matter, what is the major problem that is making people work there, or even for that matter, why India is not implementing the modern means to employ those technologies in getting these kind of works done. So even before that, we will understand the key findings of the report released by the Ministry of Social Welfare and Empowerment. So these are the areas that the report, the study, touches. One is, it clearly states that in almost 49 of the 54 cases, especially the deaths, happened due to the non-usage of protective gear. And it also talks about the institutional negligence, especially from the person who hires them, the contractors and agencies who lacked proper equipment. And it also talks about the workers lack of knowledge and their consent, which was not or let's say no informed consent, meaning which the workers, most of the workers did not even know the risk of the work that they were getting into, because majority of the deaths here amongst the manual scavengers happen due to asphyxiation, due to the inhalation of strong toxic gases like your sulfur dioxide, ammonia, methane, etc. So no informed consent was taken. That is what the report highlights. And also the report, the study highlights the exploitative hiring practices amongst or let's say by these contractors, where most of the workers were just hired informally without any job security, and it even throws light into the wages, the remuneration and the social security net that they were supposed to be exposed to, which was not done. So moving forward, we should also talk about all the legal frameworks that India has against manual scavenging, of which the first and foremost important act that we have to study is the Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and their Rehabilitation Act 2013, which clearly bans manual scavenging in any form. So as we were discussing about the definition, it says manual scavenging in any form, handling human excreta by another human in any form is completely banned. It identifies this work as dehumanizing, right? So that is the status of manual scavenging in India today. And another important act, the Prevention of Atrocities, the SCST Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989, one of the most important act which treats employment of the scheduled castes and manual scavenging as a punishable offense. Of course, one of the data released states that out of all the workers who are employed under the manual scavenging, more than 90%, in fact, more than 90% of the people who are working as manual scavengers or in that particular sector are belonging from scheduled caste or scheduled tribe or even OBC backgrounds. And even more so, the shocking data is amongst those 90% of people who are employed from these weaker sections like SC, ST and OBC, more than 60 to 70% people belong to the scheduled castes, right? So SCST, Prevention of Atrocities Act 1789 tries to handle that. Then we have a series of Supreme Court guidelines where it has brought in a lot of changes, especially compensation for deaths, a sum of 30 lakh and even 10 to 20 lakhs for the disabilities caused due to such works. And it also talks about the accountability with respect to the person who hires them. And there is also a mechanism to try and find the transparency in the whole process. So overall, these are the legal frameworks that India has as a as a safety net for the manual scavenging. But how well or how efficiently that is being implemented is a major concern or a major question. However, we have to discuss about the challenges faced, because since we discuss about the legal framework that the constitution has or the India has, it is also important that despite all of that, what are the challenges that these sector of the people are facing. So first and foremost thing, as obvious, is the health hazards due to the constant exposure of these workers to toxic gases like hydrogen sulfide and even many other poisonous gases like ammonia, which leads to some dangerous diseases, or even in the worst case to death, right? So this is one of the major challenges, and the social stigma that comes with manual scavenging. So that is also another important thing to know. And it also talks about the challenges, major challenge, the economic exploitation that happens with the people, because they are often paid below the minimum wage without no job security. And it also is one of the major problem with the system or with the manual scavenging, is the double discrimination that happens for women. Women who are working as manual scavenger itself is very demeaning, but also at the same time they face sexual harassment or abuse is another worst thing that happens to women especially. And last but not the least, the major, most important challenge, or the drawback, or let's say an evil associated with this job, with this work, is the psychological trauma that these people go through. The social humiliation and harsh work conditions lead to anxiety, depression, and in some cases, alcohol, drug, etc., and whatnot, right? So now in this slide we will discuss about the government schemes, the government initiatives that we have. So the first one is the Safaimitra Suraksha challenge. Of course, when you are writing mains answers, or even if you want to, or if there is a topic on essay related to manual scavenging, or human exploitation, or development for that matter, you can use these initiatives, which are very important, which acts like let's say an extra ornament. It gives kind of that ornamentation benefit for your answers or essay. So first one is Safaimitra Suraksha challenge. It encourages cities to adopt 100% mechanized sewer cleaning. Then we have to talk about Namaste scheme, the national action for mechanized sanitation ecosystem, where it tries to eliminate hazardous cleaning by introducing what? Mechanized equipment. So mechanized equipment simply means in place of human being, a robot goes inside. That's all. Then we have Swachhata Abhiyan app, which tracks in sanitary latrines and sanitation worker rehabilitation. We have National Commission for Safai Karamchari, which monitors and safeguards the welfare of sanitation workers. And then we have a lot of technological interventions, innovations in this sector, where we have Bandicoot robots, which automatically cleans the manholes without a human having to go inside of it. Then we have Endobot, Swast AI, and vacuum trucks, right? So that is all for today's video. We have discussed, we have understood what is the present scenario of manual scavenging in India, the legal framework, and the challenges faced by manual scavengers, the people who are employed under that. And we have also tried and discussed, few areas of problem in India as a democracy, where it is very absolutely necessary for the country to completely ban manual scavenging, as it kind of persists. If it persists going forward, it can lead to a black mark. It can be a huge black mark for the nation's image at the geopolitical level. So truly eradicating this practice, India must ensure 100% mechanized cleaning robots. They have to employ and indulge in having more mechanized cleaning technologies being employed in such works. And then we should also ensure to find alternative livelihoods for those people who were employed in that particular work, in order to ensure that they have the life of a human being with dignity. And collective social shift to respect and uplift sanitation workers. A lot of initiatives and social inclusions should be also implemented, and that is what the points talks about. So ultimately, it is not about the the loss of death, or it's not about the loopholes in the system. It is ultimately about the issue which was supposed to be completely ended. As India, being a democracy, we uphold our rights, and it is not just about the life living like an animal, or let's say, it is the life which also means more when it is lived with dignity. So that's all for today's video. For more such informative content, please do subscribe to Willibus IAS Academy YouTube channel. And signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a great day.